my guests today are Alex and Lewis from Tunbridge Wells. They went on a Land Rover restoration project about a year ago, I'd say, and they are two gents that I'm actually looking forward to speaking to during this podcast. We're going to talk about the restoration of your vehicle, and please welcome Lewis and Alex.
Very much.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys. Whereabouts are you?
We're in West Kent near Tunbridge Wells.
Okay. Yeah. How are you both?
Yeah, we're very well, thanks.
Yeah,
very well. Good. Struggling through.
Yeah.
Great.
So, how do you know each other?
So I'm married to Alex's sister.
Okay. So you're keeping the project in the family.
Keeping it in the family, yeah.
That's it. And we all met at uni. We all went to the same uni in Oxford, and studied different things. But that's where we all sort of met. Obviously, my sister met Lewis, and we were all there at the same time. And so, known each other for years now.
Oh, okay. And so, where are you with the project? Because I've watched your Bust2built on YouTube. Where are you at the moment? Because last time I saw the chassis was being repaired, and you had some arms and some suspension still on it. Is that all off now? What's the story?
Yeah, the chassis we're completely done with the chassis, apart from a few little sort of brackets and things like that. So what we're focusing on at the moment is the restoration of the axles. You would have seen the video of both the axles, certain suspension components like radius arms and trailing arms being sandblasted, and the chassis itself. So we sort of stripped down the axles to make sure sand didn't get into the diff and things like that when it was being sandblasted, and thankfully it hasn't. So right now we're doing, bearing seals, new brake discs, all the seals around the CV on the front axle and stuff. So we're nearly there with that. And then I've got all of the new suspension components, so it will be getting it back to a rolling chassis, hopefully this side of Christmas.
Yeah, the chassis was always going to be the biggest thing for us, because it's a little bit of an unknown until you get all the bodywork off of it. And when we did, we found a few bits and pieces which weren't quite right. But at the same time, we didn't really want to spend on a brand new chassis, because that's quite a big expense. So we feel like we've done a really good job to get it back to a state that we think is going to last for a long time, but without having to actually replace it. So that was a big step for us. And now, like Alex says, we'll soon be bolting stuff back on.
Okay. So what's the what would you like to come out of it? Are you doing a nut and bolt restoration, or are you doing one of them ones where you just think, well, it's still got a little bit of patina there, so leave that as it is? What's the...
So this vehicle I bought 4 years ago, probably. And it was in real farm truck condition. It had been used on farms, it had been used to tow horse boxes and things like that. Mechanically pretty sound, haven't had any issues there. But as with most Land Rovers of that age, rust is a real problem. In the videos, you will have seen the back end of the chassis being cut off because that was wrecked. A replacement part being put on there, and then also the bulkhead was awful, complete rot. So probably 3 years ago, 2.5. So as I was saying, rust was a big issue, and it was probably about 3 years ago. Lewis, myself, and a mate of ours, we started working on the bulkhead itself, trying to you can buy all sorts of replacement panels for different areas on the bulkhead. And it's
just trying to salvage it.
Trying to salvage it, and it's along the top where the windscreen surround meets the bulkhead itself that they collect water, rot through, and also the footwells themselves. So the top of the bulkhead was wrecked. You can buy replacement panels. We cut off the old ones, welded in new ones, thinking jobs are good, but my feet kept getting wet. And so we had this whole idea. We had the idea of Bust2built. We play with cars all the time. We've done other projects and things like that, not to this level, but always mucking around with them. We thought, why not do a video series and let's really get this Land Rover good. So we pulled back the carpet and matting, and sure enough, there were great big holes in the footwell. And it has kind of escalated. It's you know, the chassis work we never really factored in the first place. Complete nut and bolt restoration. We were kind of hoping to use certain old components, but they break off. They, you know, you're forcing these great big nuts and they just blow to pieces rather than being reusable. So it's going to be a nut and bolt restoration from the perspective of, unfortunately, on a 16, 17-year-old Land Rover, there's very little that can be reused. But at the same time, it's got some things in the bodywork, things and dents here and there. You can see it's being used as a farm truck. So we are going to have to respray it because there was so much rust. There's going to be loads of replacement panels. We can't get away with keeping the existing patina. I'm not in love with the red anyway. So whilst it's in all of its many parts, we're going to change the colour. We will be doing a full respray, which will look good and new, but we probably will not be spending hours and hours with body filler, getting every single dent, every single ding.
Yeah.
So you'll have sort of new paint over the old war wounds.
Yeah. So who's got the background in car restoration or?
Neither of us really. I've got a degree in motorsport engineering. So you know, that's where I went. That's the career that I followed. But you know, it's a completely different story when you start restoring cars. You know, textbooks and university degrees don't help you when you're underneath a chassis with a seized bolt.
How'd you get a seized bolt off? Go on. How'd you get a seized bolt?
How do we do it? We turn it until it snaps.
Yeah, and then how'd you get the thread bit out? If it's
with a
stuck
hammer.
With a hammer. Okay.
No, it depends. It really depends on the scenario. You should see some of the videos. We actually found quite a good tip. It always seems to snap off, get stuck in the socket. So we just stick the socket in a hole and hammer it through with a screwdriver, and it pops out the other end. So we ended up spending double the time we needed just trying to get bolts out because we couldn't. You know, that every single one was seizing, and it was literally turn it until it snaps. Thankfully, Land Rover only make them out of 8.8 grade bolts, so they snap fairly easily.
Okay. It's weird because I'm restoring a classic Mini at the moment. It's going very, very slow to the point where I haven't touched it for about 3 years. I've had so much going on. So, have you heard of the Concourse of Elegance?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
So the Concourse of Elegance is like a beauty pageant for cars.
Okay.
And I'd say the minimum car on the forecourt of the 60 cars that enter, or 80 cars that enter, are about £1 million. They're absolutely stunning cars. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see that I was there this year and last year and every year since it started. I entered an electric car into the junior concourse this year. So it's a Triumph TR3 replica, exactly the same, but half a scale for my little lad. And I came up with it a few years ago. And the story is that I spoke to the original designer who actually designed and made them. So in 1960, Triumph said, let's make 100 small Triumphs for kids. And they asked this guy to do it. And now he's in his 80s, but I tracked him down in a care home somewhere in England, north of England. And I spoke to him and I just said to him, look, do you mind if I replicate? Because I couldn't find, I wanted to buy one, but I couldn't find one because they're that rare. And I was going to go for the Austin J40 pedal car. And I thought, do you know what? They're everywhere. Everyone's got those. There's thousands of them out there. Let's go for something really rare. And I'm an aerospace engineer, designer by trade. And I thought, well, let's just see what I can do with my CAD station and drawing techniques. And I started drawing stuff up and talking to people. And inevitably, you always find that talking to people on the ground is much better than doing your research on a computer. And I started chatting to people, and people saying, oh, this guy makes the bodies in Birmingham. He's still got the original mould from the 60s. I tried to buy it off of him, but he wasn't having none of it. So I just left it and just bought a shell from him. And then one of the engineers at work, he retired and he was bored, and he said, I can take care of the chassis. So he welded up this chassis for me, and it went from there really. And then I contacted the Concourse of Elegance and I said, would you have one of these little cars in your forecourt somewhere, you know, just for the kids, because then you can get a whole new audience, you know. And they said, that's a good idea. We'll do a junior concourse. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. But they're not going to accept me because the detail and level of some of the cars there this year was so amazing. You know, mine was just a fiberglass shell with a motor attached to it and a chassis that was built in a shed, really.
Yeah.
But that being said, they said, yes, bring it along. And then COVID happened. And then I started to work on a private project for a COVID UVPC light, whatever it's called. And so I did that and dropped the Triumph car. And then they contacted me again and said, are you bringing it? And I was thinking, oh, no. Now I've got to prime it and get it ready again. And I couldn't find the battery in time. So I said to them, look, if you want me to drive this thing around the forecourt, around the concourse, it's not going to happen. No problem, just bring it along. So I brought it along, sat it on the Concourse of Elegance on the main bit where the red carpet is and everyone's looking at it. And then behind me comes up this Porsche, this little 911 Porsche electric car. No, it had a motor in it, actually, this one. And then behind that, it was I think it's a 317 Porsche, the race one, the Le Mans race car.
Yeah.
And it was, the detail on it was just immaculate, like absolutely beautiful. And I'm standing there, I'm not feeling embarrassed, but I'm like, I haven't put much into this because I haven't had time to. So it's probably the least favourite of everyone's there. And next minute, I get this woman come up to me. She says to me, tell us about the car. Told her all the story behind it and stuff. And she says to me, I think you're going to win. I was like, what? I can't win the Concourse of Elegance Junior. I can't do it. There's no way. Anyway, she comes after the trophy was handed out to the Porsche guy. She came up to me. She said to me, really wanted you to win because of your story and how you came about to do that. It was unique. So finish it and bring it back next year. So my whole background is I did a little bit of classic car restoration at college. So across the road from where I work at Airbus, there's a college. And I just think somebody said to me, you're into classic cars, Derv? I said, yeah. They went, there's a classic car restoration place starting across the road. And I think there's only 3 places in the country you can do classic car restoration at college. One's at Stevenage College. The other one is it's an actual working Jaguar place in Surrey somewhere, but it costs an arm and a leg to go there. Absolutely, I think they put you up in one of their accommodations as well. And there's a place up north, Coventry Way, Birmingham Way. But so I did that course, and then I quickly realised that actually I don't like the grinding, the welding of metal. You know what I like doing? It's really weird. I like to take a project, strip it down, bag all the bolts and everything where it all come from, take pictures. I'm going to send the shell off to be restored by somebody else, even though now I can probably do it. Not as well as an expert, but I can do it. I can weld and stuff. And then I'm going to get all the pieces back and just put the car back together. And that's what I found. That's what I enjoy doing, just building stuff up.
Yeah. You do end up spending a lot of time on the nitty gritty. So, that, you know, ultimately the bit that reaps the benefit is when you do bolt it back together. And we found as well, you know, that's more, you go into things being like, oh, I can't wait to learn this new skill or to really get into the detail of it. But a couple of hours in, you're like, oh, I actually just want to put this thing back together.
Yeah.
It's the impatient way of us, and you know, you look at it and you go into something thinking in your head, that'll take me an hour. and then I'll be on to this thing, which I'm really looking forward to. 2 days later, you're still doing that job that was going to take you an hour. And and so there are massive ups and downs with it, but I think we're so close now to putting brand spanking new, shiny suspension components. It's got a 2-inch lift, and that kind of stuff going on. It's stuff when I was a kid, when I was 10, 12, I'd look at all these off-road vehicles and stuff lifted up. Lewis and my car, like the sort of vehicles we're into, differs a fair bit.
Okay,
Lewis,
what are you into?
So I love trucks, 4x4s, super powerful vehicles, but I love sort of utilitarian vehicles, ones that you could kind of do anything with. If a vehicle's got some insane towing capacity or something like that, I love that. Lewis used to work at McLaren. He's much more into the real engineering of making these awesome supercars and things, which I really appreciate. But my garage would be full of trucks, SUVs, 4x4s, things like that. Whereas Lewis,
I wouldn't have a single one.
Yeah,
there wouldn't be a single 4x4 in there. No, I have respect for 4x4s because they do a job well. That I think my pet hate is the fact that they very rarely do that job anymore, and they're just on the road for the sake of it. So I think that's the reason why. But that doesn't take anything away from the enjoyment of doing this Defender. I mean, I'd rather be doing an R34 or something like that, absolutely. But I still enjoy getting my hands dirty, and that's why I like doing the Defender. So
I mean, it's really great. There are supercars I love. I love old muscle cars. I have a real sort of quite broad brush with it.
Me too,
I have a real interest in the trucks, SUVs, proper off-road vehicles, pickups, things like that, which don't interest a lot of people because in the car world, particularly in Europe, go fast, how much faster can you go, how quickly can you finish that race, and things like that is the focus. And I love all of that. I watch F1 and things like that. I do love it. But getting underneath a Defender, which is such a sort of iconic vehicle in my childhood and lots of people's, I love the project for the Defenderness of it as well as doing the job.
Yeah. You don't have to jack that up, do you? You just slide underneath it, can you? If you want to do some bits, which is fantastic. If you haven't got a lift, I noticed you guys were working in a tent. Are you still working in the tent?
We are, The tent had a slight issue, which you might have seen from our Instagram, in that it took off in some high winds a few weeks ago.
Oh no!
So I was woken up at 3 a.m. My missus and I to crashing and banging. We looked out the window of our bedroom, which overlooks where the tent normally is. No tent, all newly painted chassis, all our tools rained on. So at 3 a.m. we were out. We found the tent, fortunately, had flown around the house and pinned itself against the back wall in the back garden. So at 3 a.m. in this storm, we were getting the canvas off it. But it's back up. It's a little bit dented, got a few holes and a few of the bars are bent. But now tied down to 4 steel wheels and 5 alloys. So hopefully it won't be going anywhere again.
I tell you what, that tent has been awesome. Ultimately, it was 300 quid. We had nowhere else to work, and it's housed all the components and us through every type of piece, every weather that the world can chuck at us, and we've kept dry and stick a couple of lights up and you can carry on working. It's been great.
It's brilliant. If people are looking for that kind of thing where they don't have a garage or things like that, it's made by Clark, one of those sort of UK slightly budget tool makers. We bought ours from Machine Mart, and I think it was on sale. I think it retails a bit higher normally, but for less than 400 quid, you've got yourself a 6 metre by 3 metre by 3 metre working area, and it's brilliant. So
where is it? Is it on your drive? Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the drive sort of goes down the side of the house as like an access point, so it's sort of down the side. It's perfect location, really. Doesn't take up any space that we need otherwise. So yeah.
I've got a 4-car garage under the house. Right? So when we first moved here, I said to the missus, look, I want that to be my workshop. She said, knock yourself out, do what you want with downstairs. I'm not interested in down there. 2 doors down, someone converted it into an apartment, like a flat for his son. I'm like, okay, she's going to go down that route now, isn't she? I said to her, if I lived here on my own, I would cut out a section of the living room floor and put a glass panel in. And I would make, so what I'm trying to create down there is like a mixture of like Jay Leno's garage with, have you heard of box grass?
No.
Box and Grass, I think they're called. Frank, I think his name's Frank Cassidy. He's a Porsche collector, if you like, in the UK. I think he's up in Oxford somewhere. He's got this development that he's bought, and basically he rents out. This is a big thing now. I don't know whether you guys follow all this stuff, but there seems like the Bidchester, is it called? Bidchester development, where someone's bought the whole development and they're renting out to all different manufacturers or different. So you've got Morgan Cars in there, you've got Porsche dealer in there, you've got all these people renting space, and they do coffee mornings where you can go drive anything you want in there and just look around, which I think that'd be a great thing for us three. Once this lockdown's over, I think we could meet up and have a coffee or a beer.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Same as Duke of London. Have you heard of Duke of London?
That does ring a bell, but I'm not really. Yeah.
So that the dad is Lance McCormack. He runs Romance of Rust, and he is, honestly, look on Instagram. His skills on metalwork and bodywork and coach building is second to none. Literally, it's just unbelievable. I'm having him on my podcast soon, hopefully, and
awesome.
And his son runs Duke of London.
Yeah,
Duke of London is I think it's in Brentford. It's a factory. It's an old factory, and he's bought it, and he does the same thing. He rents out places like that. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit similar on a much smaller scale, and it's going to be a mixture of that and like Harry Potter's kind of workshop kind of thing. So for people to come in, I'm going to have my studio there, and people are going to come in and go, what's that on the shelf? And just stare at it. It could be an old clock, it could be an old bit of aircraft, because I collect memorabilia. So that's what I'm planning to do downstairs. But I reckon by the time we've done that, we would have moved. That's what he's going to look at, because there's about 2,000 items under the house that my wife wants to sell. She won't let me bin them. And I'm talking about old magazines. I'm talking about like old clothes and stuff. And people buy this stuff on eBay. So she's like, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it. I'm like, just dump it, because I need to set up the workshop. No, she wants to do the environmentally thing and don't. Oh, running out of time. What's all this? Hang on a minute. Does that mean we run out of time in 10 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, Zoom Basic only allows you 45 minutes, but we can dial straight back in.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll do that then. I didn't realise that.
10 minutes you can dial back in. Or
I think you can dial straight back in. If for whatever reason it doesn't work, I've got the Zoom Pro thing, which is unlimited, so I can just send us a link and we'll jump back on. That being said, you won't be able to record, so no, maybe it's best it comes from you.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll sort something out. Anyway, right. So I diverted a little bit, but So, what's the plan for the Landy then? What are you going to do with it in the end? You going to keep it? Are you going to sell it?
Yeah.
It's going to be our truck, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the aim. I mean, it's always going to be Alex's car because he bought it in the first place. But the idea behind it was that we were going to use this as our workhorse for future projects. So that's the aim. But at the same time, we still have day jobs, and Al will probably use it as a station car or whatever. But it's going to be able to have that that ability to tow a trailer or pick up parts in the boot and everything like that.
Okay, so it's going to be a working kind of horse, really. It's going to be like a work car.
It's going to be a workhorse / daily. So, our ultimate dream would be for Bust2built to take off to the level of some of these huge YouTubers, and we could jack our jobs in and do this full time. That would be the absolute dream. And then it would be just a pure workhorse. But until that time, I mean, I've got a car on lease right now. My missus' car's knackered. So the hope is get the Defender back on the road. She can take my lease car and I'll use it as a daily.
Yeah. Would you consider doing road trips across Europe and places like? Because that's something I'm looking into next year. I mean, I'm a massive Porsche fan, so I've been to the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart already, but I'm hoping they invite me back for a podcast down there, or at least one of the tuners in Germany. And I'm going to get my brother in his E-Class AMGS to give me a lift there. And we'll make a podcast out of that, I think, probably. But I'm the same as you guys. I just want it to take over and start to build up to a point where I can give my main job up. I do love my job. I do enjoy my job, but travelling 55 miles one way every day is just a nightmare. And
I know your pain.
Yeah.
I know your exact pain. That's basically what I've done for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And it does grate on you after a while.
Yeah, it does. And now I've got a son, 3.5 going on 4. It's just so hard to see him during the week, and it just it's upsetting because he's like, where's daddy? So I'm definitely looking at doing other stuff. I've designed my own bits as well, so I'm trying to get those on Kickstarter and things like that. So I'm trying to do many things at the moment. So what other cars have you guys done? Because you mentioned that earlier about what cars have you actually.
Well, we've done some big and small kind of projects. So all the way back when I was at uni, I built a replica caterer from the ground up. That was quite a difficult one. It wasn't even a kit. I bought it off eBay as a rolling chassis, and it was a very old design. Even to get it through to road legality was quite difficult and required quite a lot of handmade parts to make it go, and a bit of strengthening on the chassis. We've done a Audi TT, the 3.2 VR6 engine. Yeah. Put a couple of turbos, which I managed to get hold of, onto that. Took it from 250 brake up to 450. Whoa. That's quite a laugh. We've done a lot of tinkering on just random little cars. I mean, even back when we first met, me and Alex, working on his old BMW, he bought a drift car, which was possibly the worst car he's ever bought, but great fun. So just bits and bobs, really.
Yeah, that's right. The drift car was an error, but that thing we had some fun with. That was a Drift Spec 200 SX, but it was knackered. I also, after uni, I moved to Bali in Indonesia with a mate, and we built motorbikes out there. Well, we chopped up existing motorbikes and made them cool. So played around with that. But yeah, Lewis has done real, sort of when he did the case from replica and stuff. That was really cool. But mine's always been tinkering up until now. Even back to my first car, which was a Fiat Punto. It had rims on it that didn't fit the arches. A sound system so big that you couldn't even put a packet of crisps in the back. It's just been a love of cars from before driving up until passing your test, and then it becomes even more awesome. Put induction kits on 1.2 litre engines and stuff, and it's just always.
And realise you've lost power.
Lost power, lost money.
It's interesting though, and it's like trying to get as much power out of a car. And I keep saying this to my father-in-law, who's worked in the race industry. He's worked on some of the most expensive cars in the world. He's looked after the Queen's Bentleys. He did the original Italian Job Minis. He'd done all those for the film.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Trying to get him on the podcast, but he keeps refusing at the moment. But I said to him, how do you get power out of an engine? Like, what's the best way of getting power out of an engine? And he always says to me, like, just to increase the material strengths and the strokes of the engine. That's the best way.
Just slightly closer to home, came up with their supplier of 3.8 and 4 litre V8s.
Yeah.
So I'm now an engineer for their manufacturer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So are you on the design? Are you on the design side, CAD side, or are you on as an engineer?
McLaren own the design, and so what I now look after is basically warranty issues.
Yeah.
And production issues. So supporting production if anything's going wrong, trying to help them figure out how we can stabilize production, and also if there's anything that happens in the field, try and engineer out the problem.
And is that road cars or Formula One?
Road cars.
Road cars. Is it true? I don't know how true this is, but there's a guy called TGE TV. Have you heard of him?
It rings a bell, but
he's all over YouTube. If you have a look, he owns about 6 or 7 supercars, and I think he was saying that if McLaren don't have the parts, you still have to pay the monthly, the HP, whatever it's called, the fee to have the car, and they can shelve your car for 3 to 6 months, if not a year, because they haven't got the part.
Wow, I actually have absolutely no idea about that.
Okay, all right, it's coming through. All right, okay. So
it doesn't. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether that would work out. I mean, probably you might have to pay, but then they would reimburse you if there was a genuine warranty claim. So I don't know if that necessarily would work out like that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to come on. Actually, I want to get him on as well to explain himself and see what he's talking about. I know he gets a lot of hate, but he seems like a nice guy. A lot of it's jealousy for the supercars he's got, and he's got a nice looking girl as well on his arm. So you get the haters. That's easy enough. I'm sure we will get it as well. I'll get it. I've already.
Yeah, we all do. We have quite a funny one when we were welding the rear end of the chassis. We got some hate comments about the welder I was using, the way I was welding it, and things like that. And ultimately, my response is, this is the welder we have. It's not my day job. We're doing the best we can. We think it's all right. So, there's always going to be people questioning your methods and things like that, and that's fine. That's their opinion. But yeah, we do what we can.
The thing with Land Rovers as well, Land Rover chassis and most sort of off-road vehicles, is that in the UK and most European countries, under a standard driving license, you can only tow up to 3.5 ton. Now, obviously, in America, that's completely different. You pass your driving test, and then you can tow 20 ton out the back of your car with a 50-foot trailer. But in the UK, you can't do that. But Land Rovers are so incredibly over-engineered when it comes to that kind of capacity. And they always do as these releases when they bring out a new vehicle, their tow test. And I think the Discovery 5 tow test, they were pulling 3 or 4 of those Australian road trains behind a Discovery for miles and miles and miles. Now, that's probably about 100 ton. I have no idea what it weighed, but it's enormous. So if you're cutting the back off a chassis, the replacement part's got an overlap.
Yeah.
If you do a decent weld that penetrates both bits of metal, that's going to hold 3.5 rolling ton. No worries. Your chassis is not going to split in half, and that's all we're using it for. We don't plan on, doing any mad rock crawling where you might be smacking the chassis into rocks and bending it in different ways. It's just that pulling momentum. Movement. We are confident in those welds on there that they can do 3.5 ton plus some.
Yeah. Interesting. So what do you think of, do you know Afzal Khan? Have you heard of the Chelsea truck company?
Yeah.
What do you think of his designs and the way he's modified some of these Land Rovers then?
Yeah. Look, when it comes to cars, that's probably out of every view I've got in the world is where I become the most liberal. And it is each to their own. You know, some people love stance, some people love their car covered in lights. What might be cool in America is really, really terrible in Europe, and vice versa, and things like that. So it's very much each to their own. For me personally, the Cairn side panels that go on the original Defender, I do not like them.
Yeah.
I like the sort of curvature
yeah.
on the side of the original Defender because it is the only curve on the whole vehicle. You've got a box, but that shoulder line's a curve. And what that does is it takes it away. It puts that rigid thing on. Now, it gives it a kind of cooler, more sort of almost aerospace kind of look. You know, it looks a bit more like a fighter jet or something like that. And loads and loads of people think that's cool. And good for them. You know, and in that environment where those are typically going to be driven, it's perfect, it's great. But for me, with R1 particularly, because it's an old farm truck, it's going to be used and abused as a work truck, as a tow vehicle. I don't want, and also, you know, I'm really, really rural where I live. It will be in fields, it will be doing a bit of green laning and things like that. So for me, it's all about how utilitarian can it be? Can I take it up that track and then drive it on the motorway and tow that out the back? And me and my missus go drive down to Europe. So it's sort of trying to get that complete package thing. Going down the Cairn route, you know, they've got 20-inch alloys on, lowering springs, super rigid sway bars on those things. Then all of the kit bolted on the side. If I took that down a green lane, I'd rip that straight off the back and probably ground the diffs out. So it's, you know, it's what you're going to use a vehicle for, what style you like. And I say, regardless of what any hater, online troll, your next door neighbour says, if you think it's cool and you like it, do it to your vehicle.
I like the Chelsea Truck Company and what they do. I nearly bought a Wrangler last year, but my missus went, "Ooh, that looks too military. I don't want that on our drive." Oh, God, here we go. Okay. So we bought another vehicle for her, and I'm still driving around in a Mini Countryman, which I've been looking. I don't want to bastardise the car too much and take it away from its original spec. But what I do want to do is I want to jack it up a little bit and put some, you know, those truck wheels where you get a lot of tyre and a very small amount of wheel in the centre.
Yeah, the Steelers.
I'm looking for those. I'm looking for those for it at the moment. Partly because I think the tyres will last longer. They're more expensive, but they do last longer. But also, I just want that kind of rugged look. I like that rugged look. But we'll see. We'll see. It's not high up on my agenda of things to do at the moment. So
the Wrangler is an epic vehicle. It's awful on the road, as awful as a Defender on the road. But there is, and for me as a landy guy to say, it's pretty those Jeeps are pretty unparalleled off road.
Yeah, they are. Do you know what's that guy? Dennis Collins, I think his name is.
Yeah.
I watch his YouTube channel all the time.
He's made a packet out of Jeep.
yeah. I love the Ford Bronco, the old ones. Oh man, that's
the new one.
Oh, the new one's fantastic, isn't it? Is that out yet?
No, it's not. They've released vehicles to go around doing all of the press and everything, but I don't know if many of them actually got engines in them. So they, you know, do you follow Doug DeMero?
No,
Doug DeMero. He's does really. He's quite a quirky character. He's quite funny. But he reviews pretty much every single new vehicle on the American market as they come out. But he did one on the Bronco, which it wasn't running, but was a complete shell interior, everything. So you can see it would be. But yeah, I think it's a real shame that's not coming to Europe, because I think it would fill a financial gap that Land Rover have left behind with the new Defender, because the Bronco is going to be cheap as chips compared to the new Defender.
Oh, really?
yeah. Americans aren't into this. Normal Americans, obviously, you've got Hollywood and things like that. But your average American, if you say to him, "Yeah, you're going to spend 200 grand on a car," they're like, well, "No, I'm not, because I can go and get myself a F-150 for $50,000, and it will last 70 years."
Yeah.
You know, so like a Jeep Wrangler, the entry level ones of them are less than $30,000 in the States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I think the Bronco's starting at a similar sort of price point, whereas the Defender, to actually get one you'd want, you'll be spending 70 plus, which is where I personally think Land Rover have missed the mark. But
yeah. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go to America to get a Wrangler and then drive it back. Obviously, we'd get a ship across to somewhere and then drive, but I'd probably do it the long way around.
yeah.
But I'm waiting for my little lad to grow up a little bit before I do things like that.
I've got so many dreams of the road trips I'd do if there was unlimited money.
Really? Yeah, me too. So I'm going to ask you one final question, and then I'm going to ask you the what I ask everybody really. What's on your wish list of classic cars to restore? What's the?
I'll let Lewis go first.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's necessarily a restoration, but on my build list, I've always wanted to take an AC Cobra and stick in a more modern engine with a ridiculous amount of power. And obviously the original chassis, I think, would probably bend and wouldn't really be up to it. But I'd like to basically take an AC Cobra and modernize it, strengthen it, keep the aesthetics, but just underneath, just make it more modern. And yeah, I don't know, there's something about them that I just think's amazing. But I think that in today's world, there's just bits that I want to change. And so I think that's probably what I would do. So I suppose in essence it's a restoration, but at the same time it's something completely different. It's something brand new.
Resto mod.
Yeah, there's a lot of those out there at the moment. Yeah, did you see the Alfa Romeo a couple of weeks ago?
No.
And who's that guy? JWW. Have you heard of him?
Okay. Yeah, that does ring a bell.
He showed a Volvo P1800, a light blue one.
Yeah.
Touring car engine in it. Oh my
awesome.
Goodness me! I was fixated to the TV when I saw that, man. I was like, yes, this is my style. I love that sort of thing.
Well, Lewis and I, neither of us are overly sold with Volvo. You know, they're great sort of safe cars, but they're not the most exciting thing in the world. But I sent him a picture of one, and it might have been that one saying, "Here's a cool Volvo." There are some that exist, but
I think what they've done with that though, I think they cut the what's the is it the C pillar, the ones behind the driver? I think
B pillar on the door.
Yes, the roof line. Yeah, so that they've cut that back. I think.
Drop the top,
I think they've dropped the roof a little bit, which is what a lot of really good people that know what they're doing with the
big time. Massive hot rod scene. They all do the chop top.
Yeah. I don't mind cutting it. But welding it back on, I'll leave that to someone else.
You want.
I won't.
That angles get really messed up. You need professionals for that one,
Yeah, definitely. Or big clamps at least, anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The classics I'd like to do.
Go on.
Mark 1 Escort. Love to do a full sort of Mexico rally style one.
Yeah.
And then the second gen Ford F100 pickup. So that's sort of the Thieves one. What I think would be a really cool thing to do is those older American vehicles all through the muscle car era, their dashboards were, they were mainly made out of metal. Plastics hadn't really come in at that point. So I think, in my mind, I have no idea in practice, if you wanted to do a right-hand drive conversion of an older American vehicle, with all the tech we've got now with CNC machines and things like that, you could cut all those panels, you know, chuck it in CAD, reverse it over, you could build a beautiful new dash looking like the old one, right-hand drive, convert it. Obviously, you'd need a different steering rack and things like that, but you can get them off the shelf from the States. So I think that'd be really cool. Some old American classic, but I do like those second-gen Ford pickups.
Yeah. I've thought about that myself, actually, doing conversions like that. And I think I don't mind a left-hand drive car, to be honest. I haven't got a problem with it now. In the past, I used to frown upon it, but now I'm not bothered. I don't mind driving around Kings Road in Chelsea in a left-hand drive old 911 from the 70s. I've got no problem with that.
I in general wouldn't, but it's just here the lanes, they're so narrow and so many sharp bends. If you're on the wrong side of the car, for some bends it helps, but for some it'd be so hard. Yeah. Oh, so okay. So the other thing I was gonna say. Okay, so 5-car unlimited value. Go on, Lewis. You kick it off.
I've always been a massive fan of the Enzo.
Yeah.
So I'd 100% have one of them in. I've got to have a McLaren. I can't, you know, seeing them built. I got the pleasure of driving a 650S around the track, and that was insane. So I think actually my favourite is a 675 LT. I just feel like they sound like they're chewing the road up when you're sitting there idling. So one of them. I'd need a GTR. I've just got, there's this little bit of chav in me that just absolutely has to have a GTR. So that's got to be on there. I need a 67 Mustang, just because who doesn't want one in their garage? And this one's probably going to catch everyone off guard. I want my Citroen C2, which is my first car that I ever had. And I want to put on it some little, probably like a diesel turbo or something, and just make this thing just super fun, like a go-kart. And just keep it forever. That would be my 5th car.
Okay.
Mine differs. We both had GTR on the list, so I took that off. But 5, I mean, I would struggle with 100.
I'm the same,
yeah. My list was 9. But yeah, so mine that I've sort of whittled it down to is my Defender, 69 Charger, BMW E30 M3, then Jeep Cherokee Trackhawk, which is the fastest accelerating SUV, and if you talk to Hennessy, you can get that up to 1200 crank bhp. And then a 2020 Ford F450 Dually, which would become the ultimate work truck because I think they can tow 16 ton.
Where would you go? What car would you want to drive, and who would you take?
I want full-blown driver engagement, so I'd take a Caterham or something like that.
Yeah. Where would you go?
Are absolutely insane, and I would take absolutely no one with me. I don't want to be held back from going where I want to go, how fast I want to go. I just want to go on my own and do whatever comes to mind, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Where would you go?
I'll probably get shouted at for saying that, by the way. But
where would you go then? Where would you? What road would you like to go on, or where in Europe or the world?
I have absolutely no idea. I would let the road just take me, just up the mountains in Italy, up them back down.
Silvio Pass is in Italy.
Yeah. Exactly, and just let them take me wherever. I mean, you know, I don't even need. I could have a tent in the boot. I don't need much. I just need to just go and drive and not run out of fuel.
What about you, Alex?
So for me, my missus and I, we actually love road tripping anyway, and we did an awesome one in California that was great. But she loves the Defender, which is great for me and this project. It's rare to find a woman who does. But yeah, but she loves it. She loves being in it. She's driven it a bit, and yeah, she really loves it. So for us, it would be Norway, driving all up that coast road through the fjords and the bridges and stuff in the Defender when it's done, and it is something we've got on our hit list. And yeah, I'll take her because she supported this project. Oh yeah, definitely. I would quite like to do the Stelvio Pass, but friends of mine at work, Spanish, Italian, and French, they love the Alps. They're always up in the Alps doing stuff, cycling and skiing and all sorts up there. I'd like to go around there and see that. I'd also like to go the classic American Route 66, which I believe is not completely there anymore, apparently. The highways and stuff were built straight over it in bits. Yeah.
I mean, Desmond will probably tell you that we like to go off the track a little bit more, and a few of the lads in my group like to go really off track. And so I'd probably go not Route 66. I'd probably take another route for America, see some hillbillies and get chased by someone's grandfather with a shotgun or something like that.
It's interesting you say that because my missus and I were due to get married in May. All things allowing, COVID allowing and everything. And we've got a couple of honeymoon ideas, but one of them is the Deep South, road tripping again. Flying to New Orleans or Atlanta and drive around, Nashville, all through Tennessee, then sort of back down, panhandle of Florida, Blue Ridge Highway, that's back up, South Carolina, North Carolina, I can't remember which, through Alabama. So yeah, we'd see all them.
There's a road in Scotland apparently that's quite famous.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's called. I can't remember what it's called, but
the 500. What's it called?
North
Lewis
Coast.
And I did it.
You've done it, have you?
North Coast 500. Yeah, we did it with a group of mates 4 years ago. In a Puma Defender.
Okay. Have you guys got footage of all this stuff, or
no? This was all before we even thought about it. Sadly, the Defender's the first thing we've ever filmed, but
that would have been fantastic.
It would. It's seriously cool. Really,
we were literally just saying we need to do some actual fun days out, driving days, maybe even a drift day or something like that, and just have a bit of a play with the camera and show that we do other stuff other than taking apart Defenders.
Well, why don't we combine it? Because I'll tell you what, I had Ben Green from Ben Green Racing on the other day. He's a race driver, professional race driver. He's an instructor at Bedford Autodrome and Brands Hatch. And I said to him, I want to try a couple of things. I want to try drifting for sure. I want to buy an old Japanese rear-wheel drive car and just rip it to pieces and just put massive arches on it, wider wheels, crank up the turbo a little bit and make it all like really supercharged and stuff and really powerful, and just go drifting. And he was telling me, he was telling me who to see, where to go for that. We could do like a combination thing if you want. So I'm looking at some driving experiences as well next year. Probably like the Land Rover. Have you done the Land Rover stuff? The where is it you can do that? I think that's at Bedford Autodrome. You can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen.
I haven't done the specific Land Rover one, but did an off-road one in a Discovery 2 years ago up near Oxford.
Yeah.
It was actually rained off in the middle of the day, which I thought was a bit ridiculous for off-road vehicles. But the hills we were going up, you wouldn't have got anything up there.
Yeah. So I guess what I'll do is I'll get in touch with you boys when I'm doing stuff, and if you want to come, you can come along and bring your cameras and stuff and have a little play.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It sounds like a. Okay, so final question I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to get back to my little lad because he's waiting downstairs very patiently. I think he's been quite patient, little lad. Resurrecting a forgotten or bankrupt car brand. Which one would you go for and why?
Luke, want to go?
So I had a little think about this, and rather than necessarily bringing back something that's bankrupt or gone completely, what I'd quite like to do is bring something like Jaguar back to British. You know, bring back some of that heritage, get back some of the great cars that they built, and bring it home, basically. That's something that I'd love to do, rather than necessarily bringing something back from the dead, just bring it back home.
Yeah, okay. Alex?
Yeah, for me, so mine does have a caveat, and it's based on when they were in their prime building great cars instead of the complete crap they were building when they went bankrupt. Yeah. And that is Pontiac. They did the GTO, the Le Mans, Trans Am, like some of the coolest cars that have ever come out of the States. And they got swallowed up into the wider GM. Pontiac for me, but certainly not the things they were making when they disappeared 10 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, guys. All right, guys. Look, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Really had a lot of fun during this podcast. Hopefully, when lockdown's done, we can meet up, have a beer, and just discuss some car stories and get some possibly some little driving experiences out, or even just going up to London, Duke of London, or even the Caffeine and the Machine up in I think Stratford upon Avon. They do like an open day there where you can just drive up, chill out, have a coffee. Both of you being superstars, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Tell people where to find you. Tell people where to find you.
You can find us on our website, bust2built.com, or same Bust2built on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good luck, and we look forward to another podcast, seeing how the Land Rovers go.
That'd be brilliant.
Very much.
Thanks very much for having us.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.